Hello and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental nerds, Nic and Laura. On today's episode, we give our shout outs. Laura and I discuss how to incorporate extreme accountability into your daily routine. We talk to Dr. Thomas Easley, the Assistant Dean for Community and Inclusion at Yale University, about diversity, hip hop, and environmental racism. This really doesn't do the interview justice. It's actually absolutely a compelling listen, so I really do hope you guys enjoy it, and it's incredible. It really is an incredible interview. And finally, on this day in science in 1983, Sally Ride became the first American woman in space. Pretty cool stuff. So
look at that. One sentence. That's all you're going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, it's my intro. So, I get to, they picked a really good name, Sally Ride, easy to say.
Oh my gosh.
It's all about making me look good, Laura. As always, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Hit that music.
And our shout out for today is one of First, where we will be recapping some of the awards that went out at the conference. The 2021 Jim Roberts Memorial Scholarship goes to Matt Martin, a professional wetland scientist. Matt received his bachelor's from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington in environmental studies. He's currently pursuing a master's degree at the University of Oklahoma in geography and environmental sustainability with a concentration in geospatial technology. Be sure to share your promotions, new jobs, professional, and project awards with us on the EPR website. If you would like to sponsor a future episode, head on over to environmentalprofessionalsradio.com and check out the sponsor form for details. All right, let's get to our segment.
Sounds great.
I gave a presentation last week on extreme accountability, and this is a mindfulness practice that I have been doing, and it has been serving me very well.
Extreme accountability. Okay.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So it means that you're taking accountability for not just your actions and the things you promise to people, but you're taking accountability, which means essentially just means taking responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and for other people. So, because normally we think of accountability as to other people.
Right. Yeah.
So for other people would be your family, your kids, your pets, your significant other. And it doesn't mean that you're responsible necessarily for, everything that they do, but that you understand that you do play a part. Like if I'm mad that my boyfriend's not doing the dishes, in what way am I accountable to that? Have I not explained why it's important to me? Or have I not set the process up for him? Have I not explained why, since I do the cooking, it's up to him to do the dishes and what, why that's important to us in this relationship? And, there's literally instructions on our chalk wall above the sink that says this side is for dirty cat dishes for the cat food, and this side is for dishes, so I'm being accountable for how do I set him up for success in our relationship?
Yeah. And, wait. Yeah, what happens when he inevitably forgets? Because that's really what's going on, right? Is it?
Yeah.
So what
it's hard, right? Because there are some times where you can be accountable and do all that you can do, and then you still don't get the outcome that you want, right? So you still have to be accountable for, we're talking extreme accountability, right?
Yeah.
Then you have to go to, well, this is the person do I want to be in this relationship or not? That's your choice at that point. It's and if you say you do, then your only option is to live with it. You have to say, how can I work around this? Because otherwise you just stew in it forever. And that's when people start talking under their breath and getting nitpicky with each other.
Resentment. Yeah.
I just have to go, he's doing it again, or change the rules. Maybe I need to do the dishes, but there's a different chore that he would be better at that, maybe he's going to start doing my laundry, so it just being extremely accountable makes you take things to a deeper level and find a better solution or a different solution that you would not have gone that far to get before.
Yeah.
No, and then it just works in other ways. It makes you more self-aware of like I said, your thoughts. So I'm just very much going, maybe I shouldn't have said what I said that way or the next time. So it doesn't mean you're going to be completely infallible or nothing's ever going to go wrong. But and it takes a lot of work. But I can see a lot of kind of small but profound changes.
Yeah. And I think it's really what you said right there. It takes a lot of work, right? A lot of times people, when they get a new idea or a new thought or a new way of doing things, and it doesn't immediately give you results, you think this is dumb. And why am I doing it? Right? Like meditation is a simple one, right? You can't just like go from I've never tried to clear my mind out to, yeah, now I'm a Zen master. It just doesn't work that way. And it's the same like what you're talking here. You have got to practice it just like you would anything else. And it's a strange concept because it's not something tangible.
Yeah.
It's harder to see how much better you are. If you're playing basketball and you just get better at setting screens and dribbling and shooting, those are all really, really easy to measure. But gradual change like that is really hard to see.
Yeah. And you see it in the entire purpose is that you see it in your basic outcome and like your baseline contentness or happiness. I don't really shoot for happiness myself, but being super content is the goal. And if I can just understand how I play a part in everything that happens around me, you feel more in control. You don't feel like things are you're not a victim ever and things aren't always happening to you. You can step back and say, okay, maybe I didn't like how this went this time, but the next time this situation happens, like when your in-laws visit, you can just purposefully sit down and think about what did I do that contribute to the behaviors, the interactions, the outcomes. And then, okay, the next time they're in town, how am I going to take the time, energy, and effort to maybe I need to set some different expectations or, make a chalk wall and put up some instructions and reminders,
Right. Yeah.
Or sit down with the Eckhart Tolle thing, which is the power of now, and just say, I can either change this or accept it.
Right.
And if I'm going to accept it, then I'm just going to sit back and laugh,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a phrase from one of my favorite songs that I really love. And I think we've talked about it, but I don't think it's made air yet. But it's, I smile in regret. I smile in regret. And you're like, oh yeah, that was dumb.
I like that.
And it's just because there's times where you say and do things that you can look back on and realize how silly it was. And, and you're like, yeah, that was not what I meant to do, not what I want to do. But having that mentality means I can learn from it, instead of just being totally embarrassed and totally ashamed and totally suppressing it. It's like, oh man, that was stupid. I should really, I should work on that, and and you see those changes over time. You really think back like a year ago or 2 years ago when you started doing something like this, and then you see how you've handled situations as they've come up, or even just, talking about things differently. You will notice that. It'll be gradual.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Let's get to our interview.
All right.
All right, welcome back. We are so thrilled to be here with the multifaceted Dr. Thomas RaShad Easley. He's the Assistant Dean for Community and Inclusion at Yale University School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. Welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I must admit, I got to apologize. We've changed our name. We're now the Yale School of the Environment. And so I do apologize that I didn't share that, but we still have the Forest School within the School of the Environment. So we're still there.
That's all right. Yes. Universities are always changing stuff that and organizing. So thank you for the clarification. But on that note, could you tell us more about your role in that at Yale and what you do?
Well, I am the Assistant Dean of Community and Inclusion. And to keep it simple, I think I know that role really centers around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And some can even use the new term now, of course, is access. So idea. But I help to lead all of the diversity efforts that are going on in the school. And so I do that in a number of ways. One, by leading or actually facilitating and administering programs. Two, working with our diversity committee, which is called Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity, which have faculty, staff, as well as students on there. They also lead programs, and then I help to support it. And so a lot of times the programs are really involving me, and then I work with faculty, work with students, faculty individually, students individually, staff as well, to help them with integrating diversity principles more in their work. And that's whether it's in their leadership, if you're a manager, whether it's in some of their interactions, like if you're teaching, if you're, like in various meetings. And then from there, I help support the entire school. So I help support all of the leadership. When we have challenging things to happen, which is where the community part comes in, then I'm one of the leaders that they call on. And then a nice part of my job also is to help with recruitment. So bringing new students in, bringing new faculty in, and retaining them. So
Yes.
it's a pretty broad job, but then it can get specific depending on what's going on in context.
Yeah. And when the pandemic hit, most universities shut down, they went virtual. And so were there any challenges to maintaining that diversity and inclusion as a result of the pandemic? And are there any lessons learned from how you've adapted that you'll carry forward?
Well, there were definitely some challenges, when working with a population of people that really want to be together.
Yeah.
And also in ways and in times need to be together. So, I don't want to say that like it's just a want.
Right.
Because we learn better together. We feel better when we're able to touch one another appropriately, like hug, connect, be in one another's face.
Yeah.
So that was challenging because our students really needed that, especially our first year students. Our second year students, the good thing about them is that they had already been there. So they at least knew what the school looked like. They knew what campus was like.
Yeah.
The tough things that they couldn't be together, but they were more in general. It was easier with them. It was the first years, that were tough. They got disconnected easier. But some lessons that we learned, one important lesson that myself and my supervisor learned in particular, I could say, is we've learned that we have to trust each other more. Because you never know when people are struggling and going through, something, even in moments when they're struggling and you're not. Yeah. We learned that we had to be just a little bit more sensitive to each other, not just to the students, but to one another. Because things were happening, all of the time. Either someone was losing someone. We actually lost a couple of students, so people have had to learn how to let things sit, or how I should not say let things sit, how we need to sit. How about that?
Yeah.
Which is a third lesson, like that we've learned. And I will say, I think I have to say that we're still struggling with that one. We all want to get back to some kind of normal. But better communication is one way that we have addressed that. We did more programming in our office, so there would just be more virtual touch points, and that was helpful. We have our staff leadership, have implemented like monthly gatherings that we get together and, and making things fun. I think last year, at least in my opinion, we handled it better. I feel like this year, you can tell people are just ready, for things to get back. And so, with trying to find excuses to get together and, so those are, some of the challenges. But for me, it was easier it made a couple of things easier for me. It freed me up some so that everyone couldn't just come to me, to my door. You really had to now set an appointment so I could be in front of the computer, make sure that the technology works. Yeah. It made us communicate better, in all honesty, because now we have to talk. Yeah. And in some ways, I even contributed to a mediation by being the mediator. And we had to sit there and actually work through it. So that, to me, like, that's one of the benefits, is that we all have the same square, and so we have to sit here and actually deal with each other. And then with diversity and inclusion, I got to see a lot of people. Some people kind of break down, but I got to see many people's vulnerable side. So for me, that's one of the ways that it worked out. People were opening up to me more. People were talking more. They were sharing their struggles. And because I'm an introvert and I can deal with that, but I don't have to share that as much, I can take that in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can go, okay, all right, okay, write that down. Okay. And then be like, okay, dinner's still at 6:00. Okay. But it's because I have something else to focus on, but I'm still here with you. Of course. So it doesn't get heavy for me.
Which is,
but as heavy, because it hasn't been easy, but,
for sure. And, like you were also the director of community diversity at NC State for 14 years. So this is very passionate, something that's very passionate for you. So how did that role prepare you for the job you have now?
Oh, wow. And my entire academic experience was in the land grant system. Going to Alabama A&M, HBCU, UGA, land grant Georgia, Iowa State, land grant Iowa, NC State, getting my doctorate and working there, land grant for North Carolina. So when you work in the land grant, and the reason that why I'm really just kind of specifying that is because, working in the Ivy Leagues, one thing that is definitely different are the finances. I'm just going to be real. It is different, but I will say this, but not necessarily because we can just spend. Because they can be frugal at times, but they're very mindful of how they spend in the Ivy Leagues. In my opinion, in some ways, I feel like the Ivy Leagues, depending on what we're talking about, and I won't get into, get negative here, but, depending on what we're talking about, they will spend as if they were a state institution. So that's one way that it prepared me was to show me how leaders struggle with money, how leaders spend money, and how they prioritize what they spend. What it also helped me with is the students are very needy. And I'm not saying that as a complaint, that's a fact. And students are very needy. So if you're going to work in this environment and touch students, you must be ready for people to come to you, especially if you make them feel welcome and feel comfortable. The problem I have is I can't get people to leave me alone, so, and that's a good problem, but it's a, okay, I told you I was an introvert. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, right.
I learned how to organize my time because I became an entrepreneur while I was at NC State. And I learned how to work with multiple personalities all at one time. I felt like I learned how to communicate because, being in the Southeast, we don't, and I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. We don't deal with race the same way that we deal with it in the Northeast or really in many other parts of the country. We have, this is my opinion, and of course that's general, but I think we deal with it the worst in many ways, down here. One way, because we don't even want to talk about it, even though I know I see you and I know you see me.
Right.
So, so NC State gave me that. And then NC State is where I got my doctorate. So I was fortunate at one time to basically be a faculty, student, and like an administrator all at the same time, like at the same time. And I got to see that one of the challenges is that the three don't communicate well with each other.
Right.
So they don't really know what the other is going through. So when I, so let's just, I'm sorry, I'm making a long story longer. I do apologize. So then when I get to Yale, right, and I'm in the school of then the Forestry and Environmental Studies, we are a smaller school. So we only have like a little over 300 students. Where I'm coming from a school where I was working with over 1,500 students.
Right.
Half the faculty there than what was at NC State, a smaller campus. You see, so what I had to focus on was the pace. Being a Southerner, and not saying that was slow. I just put a song out talking about that too.
I know exactly what it is. Believe me, I understand. Yeah, you're totally fair.
But it is a different pace because it's like they really move like a machine. I feel like NC State was moving into the machine phase. Yale was already there. So when I got there, I had to recognize that I was going to probably have to be attached to this a little bit more than I wanted to be. I was going to be having to reply to emails. Plus I was a dean now, but how to deal with people was still the same because the issues were still the same. And that was, and that's what really, being at Yale taught me, I am this job. At NC State, it was like, I hope I do good. But at Yale, I was like, I'm this job. Here we go. All right, let's. Who's protesting today? All right, we good. How long has the protest been going on? 2 hours? We got 22 more hours. We good. It's all right. Trust me.
Yeah.
Don't rush. Had they called New York Times yet? No, we're good.
Okay,
what's going on? Harassment. How many times has this complaint happened? 3 times. Oh, you should have been doing this before. You came and told me you in trouble. You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. It's like I can almost, and I don't mean like a prophet. I don't mean it like that, but you can almost foresee a lot of things because at least the wonderful thing about the Ivy League to me or being at Yale, or in the Northeast is that they really do like to talk about things. We miss that in the Southeast, I feel. Like I said, because we don't talk about it. In the Northeast, at least we can talk. So I like that. But anyway, I'll stop it. So long.
Talking's good.
No, it's good,
let's take it back though to like, how did you end up? Because your original schooling was it in environment? How'd you end up crossing the section between diversity and environment forestry?
Well, it was my interest shifted. I got involved in forestry from the genetics aspect of forestry. So definitely STEM and did well, in it. And by the time I was wrapping up my master's and was already involved in some really good, long-term projects, I did feel like I was missing something, so maybe a couple of years when I was first in forestry and doing it, one of the benefits was being out in the forest and not having to talk to anybody, but or no one at all, Lord, just to be honest with you,
Introvert life, yep.
Yeah, and I think I became an introvert. I think that something happened. But when I got back in school after working, I realized that I needed something. And I think that it was connection and stream of events happened that led me into being a counselor in a program called the Ronald McNair program. And I got to work with, and I had 100% Latinx ESL students. And one of the main goals of the program is that the students are to graduate and go to graduate school and eventually, if not immediately, go on to get their doctorate. And I was the only counselor that year, and all of my students went.
Wow.
And then I turned around and did it again the following year. So that's when I recognized, I don't really want to do something to help people, because remember, as I said, they spoke Spanish. I didn't.
Yeah.
But there were things that I did with them. And I did go and take a class with Spanish. I'm not saying not to go learn another language that is commonly spoken in a country that has no common language legally. Okay, anyway.
Right.
But,
yeah.
But if you want to connect with people, it's great to try to connect with them via language, or at least know their name and pronounce it correctly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I went and learned some things, and those steps taught me because I did this, it made it easier for me to connect with the students, because the students trusted me more. They practiced their English with me. I practiced my Spanish with them.
Yeah.
They could not complain, but really lament to me about the challenges that they were having or the insecurities that they were battling. Yeah. And I could combat that, from what I understood as a person who was in graduate school, who's about to finish, and let them know that, that's BS. Do not let that go to your head,
Yeah.
And so when I got to NC State, I knew that I wanted to do something. I knew that I wanted to get my doctorate, and what led me to the doctorate, that's another story. But I knew that I wanted to get it, but it needed to be in something that now interested me in people, since I'm not this person that doesn't want to be around people anymore. Well, the other thing is, if I had to think smart, if you want to graduate before your hair all turns gray, I had to be smart. So I made sure that my dissertation, that my studies aligned with my work responsibilities. That's how I was able to go to school full time and able to graduate and also still work full time. It was tough. It was hard, but I was able to do it. So in case anyone wants to know how to make things work, and if you're working, try to align it with what you're doing, and it may put a battery in your back.
Great advice.
Yeah.
We've been really focusing hard on diversity and equity inclusion, and trying to bring people onto the show and keep bringing it up. And NAEP as a whole is trying to really be a role model in space for all of the environmental professional fields. And, from the work that you do, what advice? So our listeners are people who are already working in fields, business owners, students, from what you've seen, especially with students graduating out of your school, what can employers do to make that transition from school into work better for a diverse set of students?
Good question. Just like the last time, Laura. Good question. But you too, Nick. You too. Wow, that was good though. Okay, all right. Okay.
Nick wrote it. I just said it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, great job,
team effort here.
There we go. Team. No I in team. Employers can. Let's be specific about what you just said though. Yeah. How can employers do better for diverse graduates, basically, right? To get them and to retain them. Bring them in 2 at a time. Okay, so there's one, because if you bring a person there by themselves, one question that I always get, and Laura, I still get it. Yep. How do I show up in a white space? And I'm like,
yeah.
And I can't talk to them like they're me. Yeah. I'm like, white space? What is a white space? And what happened when I showed up? Well, dang it, I think it changed. But everybody's not like me. Okay, everyone, and I'm not saying that I'm special and that I have this great understanding. I have an understanding that for me, the experience that I now have, I contribute to it some.
Yeah.
But for many other people, it takes time for folks to get to that point, because they're new, they're malleable, they want to impress. And so if they get there and they're by themselves and they're in an environment where they're not reflected, and people culturally don't know how to engage with them or talk to them or, inquire, about them and all of that, eventually they're going to feel left out. And eventually they're going to feel like the third or the fifth wheel. So if you bring them in like 2 African-American or Latinx and an African-American, and 2 indigenous people, 2 women, like if you bring, if you bring them in a pair, and just be honest about why you're bringing them in like that, right? You're bringing them in because they're brilliant and because they can do the job. You're bringing them in together because we understand that our environment, we are still continuing to broaden it and enlighten it. And so as we bring new people in, we want to bring them in in pairs or maybe in a cohort. And in that way, you can help us better improve our organizational culture, and then you will not be alone in some instances. And I'm glad you all are recording this, because I need that, what I just said, back. I need to hear that. I need that back. All right, Laura. So I know you're going to share this with people, but quote me on that, because I think that's a good tip right there.
Right.
Okay. Another thing thank you. Another thing that they can do is, there's this misperception, and it's based in the limitation of the English language. And I'll tell you what the limitation is. We think that because some things have changed, everything is better.
Right.
So, but because there's been some minimal change, that means that there's still maximum work that needs to be done.
Yep.
We think that, now that we have had a biracial president, we can go back to just treating job applications like we used to. Yeah. So we don't need affirmative action now, right? Because this group can't get jobs.
Yeah.
What did you just say to me? Excuse me? What?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just say we can go back? You think it's easy?
They do the same thing with endangered species, right? They're like, we counted manatees this year and there's one more than we needed, so let's take them off the list.
See?
Yeah.
But as some comedians say, if some people could be on that list, maybe our lives would be saved and the law will protect us better. And you're right. But where I was going with that, I'll talk to you again, Laura, because you can just bounce, you can just roll with me.
Yeah.
Is that do the interview before the interview. So don't think that because, now we have more folks here, this whole application process can just be equal now. You see?
Yeah.
And that's the misperception that equity is uniform. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Equity is what's needed. Equity is to do, equity is not equality.
Yep.
And I think that that's what everybody wants to get to. They want to go to equality, or many people. I shouldn't say everybody, because there are plenty of people out here who are fully aware of this. But there are a number of folks who, it's like they want the practice to be mainstream immediately. And I'm like, no, there were a few centuries for us to get to this point. We still need to keep incrementally moving. So that's what I want to say. Do the interview before the interview, which means you have to talk to people before you bring them in.
Yeah.
You need to go ahead and start identifying the people that you want. And then you need to get the people. Then another thing that needs to happen is you need to get the environment, the work environment, prepared for when the people get there. And then if you're a leader that's doing the hiring and you are not culturally aware and how to cross this, then it's time for you to do something about that. Don't say I'm not and then remain mediocre.
Yeah.
Say I'm not and do the opposite of trifling. Okay, so you just said that, no better. So now let's go do better. Let's go do something. Let's go sign up for something. Let's go through an experience that helps us to increase our cultural awareness. Let's it's plenty of TED Talks. You can even do it the easy way, like the cheap copyright. Go sit at home and watch a few TED Talks.
Yeah,
and go learn something.
I think we're talking to somebody who has one you could listen to.
Yeah.
Okay, hey,
you go.
Just saying.
Right, you're right. And so educating yourself, bringing people in pairs, preparing the environment before the people get there. But one of our challenges, though, Laura, is it's like we isolate job positions. It's like we minimize them. I need a forester. But what if that forester also was like an environmentalist or an environmental scientist, who could not just understand trees, but maybe new soil. And we were open to he, she, or they being able to do some of it, but the skill that we really want, we really need them to have that, but we also understand that people are going to have other skills. And the reason that I say that is because the problem with our educational system, and it transcends into our employment system, is that we've bifurcated the uniqueness almost out of us by separating us in these silos called majors and called disciplines. Mm-hmm. So when we put out jobs, like how you introduced me, multifaceted, if you think about it, the old model is to actually have one facet. You really think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I need Laura to do this one job.
Yeah.
Oh, and because women historically weren't supported going in this field, we have to blame the lack of women on women. I'm like, wait a minute, what did you just do?
Right.
You see? So you see what I'm saying? But so if you open the job up some, if you diversify the position and like put a couple of extra angles in there, Because you have programs now, people are graduating wildlife ecology and environmental science. They're graduating environmental technology and environmental engineering. They're graduating forestry and business. You see? So the positions need to open up some too, so they can attract better talent. And I need this back, Laura. I'm serious. That's fresh. Man, I never said it like that before. I got to hear this back. That is good. No, and don't delete me pausing this out. No, keep that.
No, yeah.
Because I've been wondering how to communicate this with our friends, and I just feel like I'm capturing it.
No, I love it.
Okay
I get criticized all the time, and one of our just previous guests she's all over the map, from doing very spiritual things to very scientific, technical things. Mm-hmm. But we are, why we've had this notion that people should be just narrowly focused on one thing. But to me, like, I live once. I'm not going to focus on one thing. You can't hold me down.
I can't.
Like that.
Okay.
But before we jump off with this topic and start talking about some of your other interests, when we talked before, you told me about you in the forest and the connectivity of the trees. And I just want to hear more of that again. Like how being in the forest and your vision of how the trees work interconnected change the way. It might go back to more of your finding introvertness in the forest.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm bringing you back to this.
You bringing me back. Oh, you did it again. Oh, yeah. Well, in some ways, and I'm not going to get too spiritual here, but to answer that question, I have to reflect on two facets of me, and it's the spiritual part, and then it's the outdoors part. Yeah. The spiritual part, and I've practiced just a couple of religions, not a lot, so I'm not like everywhere, but I've definitely explored a lot of religions because I've traveled. I've been fortunate to go to many different places, and I just seen the different names, different titles, different dresses, different styles of different practices that kind of all say the same thing, and that we're all connected. What I do impacts you, impacts the earth. I am part of something that's bigger than me. Now, in religion, they do it and they say that's God. In science, and maybe even in academia, philosophy, we say that that's consciousness. But I believe that in the environment or environmental fields, we say that's nature. Yeah, we say that that's the environment, and the forest. Which I really shouldn't say the forest because this is really one planet. It's just like there's no third world. I can't stand that term anymore. It's all one world. Yeah. So it's all one planet. It's one big ecosystem. And the water feeds the trees feed us, help us breathe. We turn around and give the trees something. The trees give us more, of what we need, way more than what we give it. Yeah. And so we are connected to that tree. And so in nature, and then if you go to certain cultural practices, right, they will say, especially in the indigenous, and I'm talking about this country, Turtle Island indigenous, we would say that the trees are our relatives, that we are connected to the trees. If something helps you breathe, it gives you life. And if it gives you life, it's definitely teaching you something.
Speaking of, what's your favorite animal?
Oh, man, I don't know. Yeah. When I grew up, a dog, I guess.
Follow-up question: how do you feel about bears?
How I feel about bears?
Yeah.
Oh, the utmost respect. I've been charged by one, so I mean, I don't never want to see one in person. That's what? That is a bear is better than an enemy because I don't need to make it one to know that I'm not his friend. You understand what I'm saying? Right. So the bear is like a living lesson, right there. So and I've seen a bear.
How did you get charged by bear?
How'd you get charged?
Working out in Montana, man. I was running a profile. What's this? This is a summer of 98, I believe. So this is years ago. At least I'm dating that. Mm-hmm. And I'm running a traverse, and we were split into three. We're split three people into one, basically. I went straight down. Jim went this way. Steve went this way. And I forgot how far we were, how long we were working, but I think I probably walked at least 5 miles in the forest that day. Mm-hmm. When you're running a traverse, when you're running a profile, you're not running traverse. You traverse a scene or a plot, but you profile. To run a profile means that I'm going to get like the elevation. I'm going to also capture like inventory, like what species do I see or nearby. And to be honest with you, unfortunately, as like I'm talking about running a profile to talk about how to extract trees. basically.
Right. Okay.
And I, was in a lot of brush, so I couldn't see in front of me. And I came into a clearing, finally came into like an opening, and I can like see around me. It was so beautiful. You see so many white pines that are falling, and, even a couple of deer like far off because it was so plush there. And long story short, I look in front of me while I'm still running the traverse, and I see something that looks like a cinnamon colored muffin from far away, from far, far, far away. Okay, because I couldn't make it out.
Right.
And I was hungry. Maybe that's why I'm saying muffin now. Okay.
Yeah.
And as I kept working, it kept getting closer. And it wasn't long before it was probably, and I have really good vision. Like I can see like 2015. So I can see something that's even 800 to 1,000 feet away from me. I can see it, and I can see further than that. And it was further than that, but it was far enough away. Like I can see into the next subdivision now from where I'm sitting. And the house that's across the street from the house that's on my side. And it was further than that. And I knew then I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
And I had never seen a bear in person. I'd never seen that before. And I was by myself, and I did not break the rule, which is to be quiet in the forest. I was loud, so things knew that I was there. So at that moment, I don't remember what I did and what I said. I know I cursed a lot because that's what Jim told me.
Yeah.
That's what he told me.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
But the bear, just charged and didn't get too close, took off. If it had gotten close, I wouldn't be here now, basically.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Because I was in his habitat, and I'm out here like, getting elevation, getting data, getting heights of trees and stuff, and and getting how many board feet I think is here, and that thing saw me. Now another thing that could also be because it was a baby, it wasn't like full grown either. I could tell, but so that's my black bear story right there.
Wow,
nice. Well, that I love music. Nick loves music.
Yeah.
Punk and hip hop are like my go-to for motivation. And so that's one of the reasons we connected. I think when I came across you, I was like, I need to meet this guy because you make hip hop. So I just wanted to hear about how that's going and, how you incorporate that in with what you're doing now, and tell us more about your art.
So I hear you. I am so proud to really be a person that is of what I would consider the hip hop generation. Because when I was younger, hip hop, and I'm talking like 80s in particular, once we got to the 90s, hip hop was here. Like it was here.
Yeah.
But, the 80s, we were still, I should say they, because I was a consumer, by like 82. For real, at 4 years old, I was already like, what is this? But, but as I got older, I always wondered would there be professionals, that enjoyed hip hop? Would there ever be a president that recognized hip hop? Hence, we've had that, yes.
Yeah.
Would there ever be, just CEOs who would dress and understand hip hop, lawyers who would get it, doctors who would get it? And so now the answer is yes. And I'm proud to say that I'm a university administrator that is hip hop. I'm a university administrator that I know that you can see it in my swag, you can hear it in my talk. I just said the swag. I didn't even finish the word as a swag. It kept going.
Right.
I'm sitting here with this toboggan on. I'm sitting here like hip hop. Just like fully comfortable in my environment. And how is it going? It's going much more. It's more active now, and it's definitely more known now. And I'm proud to say that. We still have more ways to go, but hey, however the Most High will have it to work out, we move with the universe. But Laura, when we first talked, I should say, too, I didn't have, I had a crew. It was a crew of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we hadn't put out a crew project. Well, technically my albums are like crew projects, but now other people's projects are turning into that.
Yeah.
But we hadn't put one out as a collective. And then we finally put that out last year.
Okay.
And from there, that birthed other numerous projects. As you said, before COVID, we had an album last year, 2020 BC, before COVID. We had our first, we called him an old head because that's what he called himself. He came out. We started putting out more instrumental albums. Joe T, the producer, B finally came out, and brought out a record, Sitch. Now he has great management and is doing bigger things. Mitch is, continuing. So everyone got active. And so now this year, 2021, so far, and we say 2021 AD, after Donald.
Yeah.
that's going to be B's next album, so I can't take it. But no one can buy that URL. I already got it. Anyway, but back to the, but back here. Now, we're all active at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we just have projects coming out, and with me still being kind of like the dean of the dean's list, if you will, I'm still the nucleus, but I'm now slowly becoming not that, and everybody else connecting with each other. And so it's like opening things up for me now.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks.
Keep supporting and listening when you have new stuff coming out.
Thank you. I got a new one coming out about leadership. I think this is going to be a big one.
Yeah.
This is what I love. I mean, you're combining the earth and the trees and like, some of my most favorite hip hop is very much, it's not the stereotypical derogatory, I love Binary Star and some of the ones that are just like, let's talk about life is good, right? And what we can get out of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a little bit of resurgence in hip hop. I don't know if you feel that, but
I do. Oh yeah. Well, COVID and will bring out a pandemic, or I think anything that challenges humanity will cause artists to either come together and create the best art that we've heard, especially at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the side of politics of 45 in particular, because I know that was a problem, but it wasn't just him.
Yeah.
That was just a symptom of the overall issue. But when I think about all the music that came out, that was amazing. I mean, all of it. I'm like, what? What are we doing? Excuse me? Travis Scott even got a little content. What? Excuse me? Shut up. So I'm just proud, and in Rhapsody, she doing it. She's just the illest, So, just to hear just all this great stuff. So I think that bad things, badness, sadness, tragedy sometimes does at least bring some greatness out in art.
Yeah, for sure. And environmental racism is a really powerful topic that you address through your music projects, and it's really incredible. So how does that work, and what challenges have you had to overcome in that respect?
Well, first, I'm smiling like that, Nick, because I'm working on a project right now called Welcome to the ER.
Yeah.
7 years ago, when I had this idea, it was going to be something, I'll say corny, even other people, that like educational roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because I was in education, I'm like wrapping up a doctorate and all that stuff, right? Nobody want to hear that crap. And now with the name and what I'm doing now, I'm like, B and I got together about a month ago in the studio, and I said, what if we brought that idea back up? ER.
Yeah.
He says, ER what? I said, environmental racism. And he was like, dog. And I was like, first song, Recycle. So we have a new song called Recycle, but it's different. We talk about don't come to me talking about recycling, basically when I'm like in a place I'm trying to survive. Like you want to talk about recycling, well then let's recycle some history here. Let's redistribute some resources. I got another song that's called Black Belt. Because I'm being from Alabama and in the Black Belt of Alabama, there are many homes in particular. Recapturing Flowers' book, Waste. You read a lot about it. It's a beautiful book, but it's about some unattractive things, ugly things going on. In particular, in my home state, where people live and walk through raw sewage. And so I have a song that's called Black Belt, where I'm acknowledging that, but also I'm like doing a play on the words Black Belt over discipline, whipping. So I'm like playing with the word Black Belt, like discipline. And then like, what the hell we live in? So how Black Belts can also, be, like playing with the Black Belt, but using it. So we have a new project that we're working on now. I'm going back to the studio after this interview, as a matter of fact, to keep working on like at least about 4 more songs. We're gonna be in there a long time. But anyway, I'm just gonna be honest with you, Nick, because your partner and I have had an interview, so I can be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I resisted doing things musically and environmentally I brought out Hip Hop Forestry in 2018.
Yeah.
And I resisted it in 2019 and 2020.
Really?
Just to be honest with you. Because I felt like I started to get pigeonholed off of one freaking song.
Yeah.
One song.
Right.
One song. And that was the Hip Hop Forestry song. And not that I'm mad about it, but I'd never seen so many white folk come out to me and want to hear about one freaking song. I'm like, wait, man, I've been rapping so many years. You want to hear about that one?
Yeah, right.
Get the out my face, man. Like, it's like that. That's how I felt. So I just didn't want to
That means you somewhat made it. That's, I think, probably every...
but I didn't want to make it like that.
I know.
My friend, I didn't want to make it like that, where it's because forestry for me, it's you appreciate that, Laura, I know, and you too, Nick, it's a part of me. It's not all of me,
Right, exactly.
And, but I feel like that's how people treated it. So me and environment and music and art, I was just at odds with it for like 2 years. I'm like, I don't want to do anything. That's cheesy to me. That's corny to me. Right. Listen to the rest of my music, because the rest of my music is about what I actually do, which is what? I'm a diversity professional. I try to help organizations, and my organization institute fairness in a place that's not meant or built for it. That's what I'm really about,
Right.
And I'm just fortunate that it transcends into forestry. It transcends into the environment, because it is my opinion that you can't treat the environment great without treating people great. In 2021, thank you. In 2021, after working on this album that's called Life of a Leader, that'll be coming out soon sometime. I can't tell everybody when, because when it does, some other stuff's going to happen around it.
Oh,
I'm proud of that, because I know I got a lot of people waiting on that.
I love it. I love the tease. It's good.
And that's RaShad Easley, like me by myself. It's like, this is the one, like this.
All right.
And people are like trying to get ready for it. I'm like, it's coming.
Yeah.
But after that, interestingly enough, I would say that this ER record will probably be the best thing that I've ever done, because it's really coming from, can you imagine? It's going to come from a place of frustration, agitation, resistance, and acceptance all at the same time.
Yeah.
So for me to make a song Black Belt and talking about discipline means I'm really talking about abuse.
Yeah.
And then talking about the hell that people are like, what the hell we live in, not the hell they live in, because it's not hell.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else has made it, with hellish conditions, but it's still not hell, it's our home.
Right.
And so, it's going to be great. But yeah, it has been challenging, Nick, because it's too much to talk about.
I
mean, shoot, when COVID hit, the Dolphins were happy. The birds came back. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Come on,
I know.
now.
I don't even want to go back out in my car somewhere.
You see?
So right.
Yeah.
You see? So,
but most people don't care, which makes me sad.
Yeah.
We want to get back to normal, but that normal is not sustainable, and it never. We've never had an affordable healthcare system. What the heck are we talking about when we talk about healthcare? It's never been affordable. You have to have a job to have insurance to be able to get care, which means that the money is in the sickness, not in the care. Okay, now let's come back to the environment. We care about the environment, and we want to, let's say those people who want my industry to stop harvesting and cutting, which I agree, because I think that some things should be slowed down. I mean, stopped in many ways. Look, I'm in agreement with you, but you who uses toilet paper, you who writes on paper, you who builds homes out of wood, you who builds clothing out of wood, you who use wood for anything, you're part of the problem too then. It's not the industry alone, because the industry is going to say that they're supplying the need. Well, the need is everybody else. Right. So writing about environmental injustice is easy. Just try to listen to what the earth is feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to be able to run out of things to write about then. That's my dream, is that I would.
I know.
But I'm never going to be, I'm not, as long as we keep reproducing or overproducing, as long as we keep overconsuming, and the truth is, as long as we keep mistreating each other, it will manifest in how we treat the planet. I don't know why I have these, I know they're long as, but I really feel like I'm clear today for some daggone reason, so I'm sorry.
No, it's great. It's wonderful. And I guess so you also have a podcast, right? Heartwood. And are these kinds of topics, are these the kinds of things that you see on that? What's the show about?
Well, when we first started it, because we're in our third season now, and I'm proud to say, Laura, talk about hip hop. I interviewed one of my favorite celebrity groups on my podcast, Goody Mob.
I saw that. Congratulations.
With Michelle in there representing Duke University. She's brilliant and amazing in every right, not her own, just every right. And we were able to support, each other, and it was her idea. And we were able to get Goody Mob. And I'm so proud to share the platform, one, with her, and then two, to talk to these 4 men who, for me, really impacted my life as a youth, especially CeeLo Green, who everybody knows, and Forget You and Crazy, so I got to talk to CeeLo Green live.
Right. That's so cool. That is so
what?
Cool.
You can't tell me anything. Okay, anyway. And, but when we started it 3 years ago, the podcast was about the intersection of diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically in environmental disciplines. And the truth is, it still is. It's just that In the first one, we had a lot of people that were a part of the forestry discipline. So we did that. The second one, we opened it up because the environment is not limited by our meager understanding of it. The environment is the environment. Mm-hmm. So I opened it up and had more amazing people on there, and even invited a couple of people back, like Dr. Jennifer Verdelin. She's an amazing wild scientist, period. Okay. Mm-hmm. Personality too. And she makes me laugh every daggone time I talk to her. And, but she's amazing, brilliant, beautiful, bold, all of that. So then we were like, what are we going to do for the third season? I feel like it's a sitcom. Right. What we gonna do? And as we're thinking about that, and I'm blessed to say this, like my notoriety increased, some. I have a book coming out later this year. I can talk about that before we leave or close. Mm-hmm. But I had a few publications that kind of gave me some notoriety. My name was mentioned on the Reel last year. So the 4 women were talking about me and rapping my song, Hip Hop Forestry.
Wow.
This year I'm on the Weather Channel twice, so
there you go.
So as my grandma, she was still alive, and granddad would say, God is good. But so I was like, so the people at Yale were more like, we need to capitalize on what's going on now. And I'm like, all right, well, what do you mean? Because in our second season, we did have our first celebrity artist on there, which was Chris Webby. He's the biggest platinum selling artist in New England.
Yeah.
And then we were like, let's see if we can get some celebrities on this one, or let's see if we can get some more people on this one. If we could get Rue Mapp, Chris Webby, we even had the Planet Walker, Dr. John Francis. If we could get him and her, she said, well, Oprah. Then who can we get?
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad that Michelle said, let's see if you can get the Goody Mob. And we got them.
That's great.
And then my student, worker, engineer, now friend, and I don't mean minimize the student. He's an amazing student. Nadeem Damien from Pittsburgh, man, that brother. He's amazing. Yeah. He's lovely. He's brilliant too, Because of him, we had Omavi Winder. So we got another celebrity hip hop artist. And that young brother's from North Carolina. At Howard, an environmental rapper.
Yeah.
So now I would say the podcast is about real life. The podcast is still about the play of the words heartwood, which means that we are still dealing with matters of the heart, but how we impact the woods. But we're really dealing with that. So anyway, we have a lot of diversity. Anyway, you can see I'm proud of it.
Of course.
And I'm just happy. I'm
you
happy
should be,
this season. So I'm sorry. I'm done.
Yeah. And as you can tell, it's a good, lively podcast, I'm sure, and lots of fun to listen to.
It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. So tell us about your book too.
Mind, Heart for Diversity. It's about how to use your head and your heart at the same time of going through challenging situations and still maintaining perspective. And that's really it. I really have to get a copy of this entire interview because I am saying things, quote me this entire, you have to quote me, okay? Please quote me.
For sure.
But I'm also teaching about how I learned these lessons, Nick. I talk to you, I give you a story from being a campus pastor. I give you a story from being a professor. I give you a story from being a diversity professional so that you can see that I'm pushing even against the culture of, like I said, siloing us. And I want you to see that every part of me informs the other parts of me. At the end of each chapter, there are questions. So if you want to go into diversity, if you want to start a diversity initiative, this book is for you.
Nice.
Right.
If you are a diversity professional engaged in this work, this book is for you. And if you're a person who goes, I don't know, I don't understand diversity, I don't know how to talk about it, I really wrote it like my friend Dr. David Washington, I am name dropping. I wrote it in a conversational way. I really wanted this to be like I'm talking with you.
Yeah.
So the diversity vernacular is there, but the conversational tone is really what this is. So I know the vocabulary, I know the terminology, but I'm not gung-ho about it because the English language is very limited. And just as great as we came up with people of color, POC, now it's BIPOC, Black and Indigenous, and other people of color. And I noticed that the more creative we get, the more exclusive we get, because I'm Black and Indigenous, and I can't stand that term. Can't stand it. So, because I'm like, what's up with the exclusion? Why we have to do that? We still haven't gotten POC straight yet.
Yeah.
Like, why are we separating that out? What's going on to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor been going on? So why are we doing that now?
Yeah.
So, and that's just my opinion about it.
I don't like it either. I mean, I just get to be white. I'm not just white. I'm also indigenous, but I don't get to go around saying I'm white and indigenous.
See?
Yeah.
So, you see what I'm saying? So we got to...
It's different, but I hear you.
you see what I'm saying? So, so we got to do something about that. So I'm teaching you through examples. And then at the end of the book, you have kind of like a guide, how you can apply this.
Yeah.
So apply, the different knowledge, that are covered in the book. So I'm proud of it. I actually originally wrote it in 2016. It went through a lot of different editions. Oh my goodness. I'm talking about people tore that book up. And then finally, after I got published at Yale in 2019, someone reached out to me interested in me writing a text. And I was like, I actually already have one. And it's been edited 15 times, and you can edit it again if you want.
Yeah.
And they read it and were like, whoa, wait a minute. When did you write this? And I was like, I wrote it then, but they were like, but this sounds like you wrote it yesterday. I was like, well, I know. I said,
Yeah.
Martin Luther King wrote a book called Where Do We Go From Here in 67. It's still relevant now.
Right.
54 years later. That's what happens when you speak truth. Truth doesn't really go out of style.
Man, that's good. That's great. That's the quote right there. Truth doesn't go out of style. And, I know we're running low on time here for sure, but like you have so many things that you're working on. It's incredible. Full-time job, hip hop, podcast, book. How do you find time to relax? How do you fit all that in? What do you do?
And work out. I know that you work out too.
Yeah.
I do work out.
Yeah. How do you balance all of that?
And be nice to your future self. So give yourself time and space. You have to give yourself that time. If I don't meditate in the morning, and I have a couple of days, here and there where I don't meditate, but if I don't meditate and do yoga and maybe get some jump rope in and pray, it's not going to be as good of a day because I haven't prioritized myself and I haven't slowed everything down so that I can at least be grounded in what's going on right now. Like, like my foot is aching, to be able to acknowledge, okay, that foot is aching. I think that, this work culture tells you to work until, when they still look at the suicide rate in the world, the lowest rate is with the poor and impoverished people. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it's still the low rate. Mm-hmm. Poor and impoverished. Isn't that fascinating? People who don't want to take themselves out, who have the least in the world, don't want to take themselves out. And then you see the more the suicide with those who have too much. Yeah. And so it's the same with the work culture. Like we've not been socialized or really forced to work around the clock and work during the best hours of our life. Yeah. Which is when the sun is up. So I'm giving the best hours of my life to an employer. That's called slavery. Yeah. And whether people want to, acknowledge it as that or not, that's called slavery, because you're basically working for slave wages because they're not paying you what you're worth. They pay you what you negotiate. All right. Okay. Well, I understand this system now as an entrepreneur. I get it now. And so I recognize that I have lived that way too. And so I don't want to treat people that way. I have a business. I have a staff now. I'm very fortunate I can say that. This is a wonderful thing. I'm not rich yet. I won't go there, but things are going, like pretty good. Yeah. And I don't want them to feel like I felt. So I also try to let them know that their peace is supposed to be their number one priority. Yeah. Their peace, not my peace, your number one priority. No, my peace is my number one priority. Right. Your peace is your number one priority. Because if you're peaceful, we should be able to work this out. Yeah. If we haven't crossed the line of something that needs to be worked out. And so that's how I treat myself so that I can treat other people that way. So it's a necessity for me to take care of myself now. And even in COVID times and people and vaccinations and all of that, you still can't go wrong taking care of yourself. That's still the most number one thing that you're supposed to do, vaccine or not. Are you taking care of yourself? Yeah. Emotionally, mentally, physically. And so I make time to work out. I prioritize that before work and I prioritize that over work. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This has been so much fun catching up with you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that we have not touched on that you want to share with people? You got the book, the podcast, your music. Mm-hmm. Students can connect with you if they're interested in getting into Yale in environmental studies.
Yeah. What's the best way, maybe? What's the best way for people to get in contact?
Get in touch with you.
If you want to talk about graduate school, because I work in a professional school, you want to talk about forestry, academia, prolonging your career or something like that, reach out to me through my Yale contact, thomas.easley@yale.edu. Yeah. But if you want to talk to me about diversity consulting, if you want me to come in and help your organization, help your company, or help your student body, or help your department or college or school to better integrate diversity and to better understand it and how to use it as a problem-solving tool and as an aspirational tool to make your environment better and to increase your diversity, reach out to me at info@easleybranch.com. And then if you want to talk to me about music, you want to talk to me about hip-hop, doing some work, also email me at info@easleybranch.com.
There we go.
Yeah. And go to my website, please, RaShadEasley.com. And you'll get access to all of my music there. But, like follow me online, follow me wherever you get music. Please, check me out. Because 2021 is a big year. I got some things for you all. And my crew does too. So it's not just me. Yep. The Great Minds Alliance is still at work. And I'm amazed at the things that we're doing. Even I'm like, I taught you?
Yeah.
I made songs with you? Like, I signed you? Oh my goodness. Like it's crazy just to see like what all is happening now. So it's a blessing. So thank you for letting me be on your platform, again, and then your platform collectively, meeting you, Nick. Yeah. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah. We will hopefully catch you up with you before you're too famous to come on, or maybe we'll be like, ooh, we got,
I'll come back.
RaShad on here. Look at
I'll come back. If I get there, I will. You got it. I just said that. I will come back because I would rather talk to people who know me, or I can have real conversations. Period.
I was going to say, I hope I'm in the. I knew you before you were famous.
Right. Yeah.
Friendship ring.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I will come back. I said it, so I have.
Yeah,
I have to do it.
We got the recording right here, so we're good.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
That's our show. Thank you so much, Dr. Easley, for joining us today. I look forward to checking out your book in a couple of months and always listening to your music when it drops. Please be sure to check us out each and every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review before you leave. Bye.
See you, everybody.